Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the News Desk. My name is Allison White. I am president of TechWell, and I'm here with Andrew Colombi, co-founder and CTO of Tonic.ai. Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. I understand you're in the Bay Area today.
Yep, in San Francisco. It's a nice day out here, and we're at our brand new office that we just opened up 2 weeks ago. So I'm breaking in one of these phone booths here.
Excellent. I love it. So let me ask you a couple of questions then. As co-founder of Tonic.ai, you are starting a new conversation around data used in testing environments for software development. And I guess since the dawn of time, the internet has been collecting more and more data, right? Internet companies have been doing that. And from a testing perspective, companies have two options: test with real customer data or create test data sets in-house. Why should they change course now?
Yeah, I think there are two reasons that are kind of bubbling up together at the same time. The first one is that as our applications are getting more complex, the data that we collect is also getting more complex. And the result of that is the test data you need to create is also getting more and more difficult to create on your own. I think, when people start these projects, they're like, okay, we need some test data. They think, how hard can it be? It'll probably take me a few weeks to spin something up here. I'll just put in some fake data, fake social security numbers, fake names, just a fake string here and there. But the reality is that only lets you create trivial fake data. And if you want some really rich data, something that is going to feel like production, something that's going to help you step into the shoes of your users when you are doing your testing, it becomes much more difficult. It becomes much more nuanced, much more, a much more time-consuming process. So that's reason number one. It's getting harder and harder to create your own data, and then at the same time, there's this regulatory environment that's catching up to us. You look at GDPR, that's been around for almost half a decade, or maybe even a little bit more than half a decade now. CCPA is California's take on GDPR. And then New York, decided to just basically copy CCPA, and they have NYPA. It seems clear to me that like a few more states kind of do one of these things, and there's going to be a federal, U.S. federal.
Oh yeah, we are anticipating that one, I know.
Yep, exactly. And that means that more and more companies are being affected by this. If you rewind 10 years, you're going to see companies in fintech, you're going to see companies in health tech, and maybe very large companies taking this really seriously because they were regulated to do so. For health tech, you had things like HIPAA. And now what we're seeing with this new regulation is that even smaller companies are going to need to take this seriously. And so now you have these two things, right? It's really hard, and also it's going to be expensive if you make a mistake. And that's where, companies like Tonic, I think, fit in. We're here to help companies take on these challenges and kind of take care of these two high cost things in a lower cost way.
So sticking with this subject then, so Tonic is one of a handful of startups working hard to create this new test data solutions. Is it important to make a distinction between mimicking production data and creating synthetic data?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think there are a lot of startups right now on this synthetic data train. And I think the Tonic thesis around this is that synthetic data is certainly part of the solution, but it's not the only thing that you need to create a compelling test data solution. I think if you start getting dogmatic about things, if you start saying, synthetic data is the answer, synthetic data over and over, you end up with weird situations. Like if you were to just take, for example, imagine you're creating a synthetic database for your application. I know if you think about your application right now, you can think of tables in there that don't make sense to synthesize. They don't contain private information. Maybe they contain, say, configuration data about your application. You don't want to synthesize those. So you need a mixed approach. And that's what data mimicking is all about. Data mimicking is taking a variety of tools in a platform and putting those together in a thoughtful way to create a great test environment. for, for your use cases in test and development.
Excellent. So question for you, how does Tonic work? Now, I love this name, by the way. The name Tonic is really great. You should create a new product called Gin. I'm sure you've heard that joke before, right?
Yeah, we're thinking like, every time we get together, which is, we're a totally remote company, right? So we get together far and few between, but whenever we do, it's like the first round is always Gin and Tonic.
Gin and Tonic. Makes sense. Makes sense. So how does Tonic work?
Yeah. So let's start from a 10,000 foot view, and we can drill in. But at the very top level, Tonic connects to your production database and creates a new database starting with the production as a starting point. And companies use Tonic to create staging databases for their staging environment, but also to augment their CI/CD pipelines, or even to create data suitable for putting directly on the laptop of a QA person or of a developer. So really like shrinking down a production data set so that it can fit directly on your laptop. So that's kind of 10,000 foot. What are we solving? The way we do that, I'll just kind of walk through a little bit of some of the technologies behind it. So when Tonic first connects to your database, the first thing it's going to do is do what we call the privacy scan. So the privacy scan is going through your data set, looking for where it may find sensitive information. And when it finds that information, it's going to flag it for you, and it's going to provide suggestions for how you should protect that data through what Tonic calls generators. Generators are like a building block in Tonic where we can create fake data. So to that end, like what kind of technologies do we employ in our generators? There are a whole host of different advanced technologies that we have. I'll just kind of list a few here. But to start with, we have neural networks that can be trained on your data. And this is all done in point and click. There's no coding required. This isn't even low code. This is no code, right? Your point and click. And we use neural nets to train on complex relationships between, say, categorical, numerical, and geospatial data. We also have differential privacy built into the platform to help protect individual users' data. We also employ, I've mentioned this already a little bit, database subsetting. So what is database subsetting? How do you shrink a potentially petabyte production data store so that you can test it on a laptop? Shrinking petabytes down to gigabytes is a complex problem. You want to be able to capture enough data so you can do testing, but also shrink it. Very difficult. Another technique that we have built into the product that is just point and click away, it's called format preserving encryption. This is useful for protecting different sensitive keys that you might have in your data. It's also a useful way of being able to protect data while having the option of reversing it later. So if you want to be able to, put data in a staging database or maybe in a support database, you have a support database where all this data is protected, then you can reverse it if you want to be able to figure out exactly, who is suffering from this issue or what have you. So these are just a few of the techniques that Tonic has available to help protect your data. And I think this kind of speaks to the earlier question around mimicking versus synthesis. In there, I think there are a few techniques like the neural net technique, for example, that you would clearly label as data synthesis, but many of those other things, around database subsetting, format preserving encryption, those aren't synthesis techniques. And I think they're important though, if you want to have a complete test data management solution there. And that's why we like to coin it as mimicking, because it's more than just synthesis. So that's kind of like the technologies that we have in there. Once you've configured Tonic, Tonic is very easy to run in your whatever environment that makes sense for you, whether it's like a Jenkins environment or Rundeck or in GitHub. We have APIs that let you connect directly to Tonic and kind of run it in an automated way. But Tonic can also notify you when things go wrong. Like a common example that our customers often like to ask us about is, well, what if new data were to show up? Like, let's say we add a column to a table. Let's say we add a social security column to a table. It's really important for Tonic to be able to identify that automatically, notify the user, hey, you have new sensitive information in your data pipeline. Do you want to do something about it? And that's something that Tonic will do for you automatically. So, our customers are running Tonic weekly or daily, or sometimes even more than every day to refresh their test data for their staging environments, their CI/CD, their developers, their QA folks. And we have businesses as large as eBay and as small as just a handful of developers using Tonic. So there's a wide range there of users. And you asked how Tonic works, and I'm going to kind of rewind to the beginning of my answer because I think that's the most important takeaway maybe, is at the highest level, Tonic is a platform for creating great fake data. It starts by using your real data as a starting point to creating that fake data. And in doing so, it enables QA teams and testing teams to do their best work.
Excellent. So speaking about that, test professionals, how is this going to affect their job and help them get better results?
Yeah, there's always like the obvious way, I think, that people think immediately. It's like, well, I'm going to find bugs more easily. I'm going to be able to do my regression tests more easily. Scale testing is going to be simpler. And all that is true. But the thing that excites me a little bit more are the like less obvious, more subtle ways that I think great test data enables. And that's kind of in your moment to moment, you're working with this application. And when you have great data, it's putting you more into the shoes of the user. You're really getting into what it's like to be them. And that helps you see all the little things, all the like little sharp edges maybe that could be rounded off. Is this input field going to be big enough for a common input? Because it's always annoying, right? You go to that website and it's like the phone number field doesn't even fit a phone number. Like, how is that possible? Or like an email address field doesn't fit an email address. It's like these little things that it looks bad. And when you have great data, it becomes obvious. It's like, well, obviously it's not fitting. And I think that, it enables us as, test professionals to go from just testing the functionality to really testing the delightfulness of the application. Does it feel good? And so that's what really excites me is that it's these less obvious ways that it affects things.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that information about Tonic and test data, and how people can find out more about Tonic is by going to where?
Yeah, you can email us at hello@tonic.ai. It's spelled just like you think it is, TONIC.ai. So hello@, or you can go to our website, Tonic.ai. And you can book time with our team there, or you can request a free sandbox account.
Excellent. That's awesome. Well, thanks very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much.